Hey, what's up? Todd here, and what I want to talk to you about today is how to set a deeper and deeper hook with a girl. You may well be aware of the concept of what we call the social hook point and the sexual hook point. Well, my contention is that there's sort of like a different hook point for any level of compliance. For example, the girl has to be hooked a little bit in order to, engage in conversation with you. She has to be hooked a bit more in order to hold your hand, a bit more in order to kiss you, a bit more in order to go home with you, a bit more in order to sleep with you. And potentially even beyond that within a relationship, a bit more in order to be in a relationship, a bit more in order to be in a non-exclusive relationship, do threesomes with you, et cetera, et cetera. So for every advanced level of compliance, there's a deeper and deeper hook point that it's helpful to establish. And in order to get into how to do this, first we need to get into exactly how to set the hook in the first place. Now I have a video on YouTube, it's called How to Hook a Girl's Attention, and this was sort of my first attempt at this theory, and I used the acronym AIDA from Glenn Ross, which is Attention, Interest, Decision, Action. And those I identified as the 4 stages of a hook. Because you see, a hook is not just the girl's either hooked or not hooked, there's sort of a progression she goes through to becoming hooked. So I used Attention, Interest, Decision, Action. I've since refined that model to a different acronym. That's Focus, Relevance, Emotion, Decision, which is a very similar model, but we call it the FRED model, F-R-E-D, Focus, Relevance, Emotion, Decision. And I'll walk you through that quickly, and then I'm going to explain how this applies to hooking deeper and deeper and deeper throughout the set. So focus, basically, you need to get the girl's attention on you. Relevance, you need to make it a conversation that she wants to pay attention to and that she's willing to invest her energy and attention into on a longer basis, i.e. something she's willing to be more than just a passive viewer of, but willing to engage with. And what do we find relevant? What do we engage with? Things that are either value or threat. If you find value in something, you'll pay very close attention and get engaged with it. If you find threat in something, you'll pay very, very close attention for self-preservation. So value or threat is a good way of going about that. And specifically, if something's about her, it's very likely to be either value or threat. Also, if you're adopting high-value behaviors, break and report tonality, self-amusement, those kind of things, that make you inherently more likely to be a higher value entity. So that makes it more likely to happen. Okay, so that's relevance. Emotion is it personal, and is there some sort of either positive or negative stimulus involved with it? For example, if someone heard an interesting science lecture, they might find it relevant and interesting, but at the end, they're not going to leave emotionally changed by it. If someone watches a magic show, they leave and say that was a great show, but they don't leave and say that was a great man, I want to fuck him, at least most of the time. But when something's emotional, when you say, not just this is so interesting, and that's why I hate you, now all of a sudden it's emotional and it's personal. Or if you, for example, are having an exciting time while doing it. For example, if you rode a roller coaster, that would get your emotions up, that would make you more hooked to the experience, or skydiving, those kind of things. Dancing, running around, being physical can raise emotionality. But anything that's making it either an emotional spike or a physiological spike, which is then interpreted as an emotional spike, leads to there being more emotionality. Also, when you start injecting words like we instead of I and you, that's creating more of that emotionality. Okay, so focus, relevance, emotion. The last step is decision, and this is where you actually have the hook, which is when she either complies to something you're saying or doesn't not comply to something you're saying. And that's what you're really looking for in this case, okay? So focus, relevance, emotion, decision. An example of the decision phase, by the way, could be if you say, come here, and she comes with you. Or if you're like, you know what, you can go, and she's like, and doesn't leave. Or for example, say you're kissing a girl, and you pull back and you say, wait, repeat after me. Hey, I really like you, I want you to kiss me now, and she repeats it. That's a form of commitment. So those are all forms of decision making, okay? So we have focus, relevance, emotion, decision. Now I said already though, that you're gonna have deeper and deeper and deeper levels of hook. So what's really happening is each of these is sort of existing on a gradient. You have focus to a certain level, and that's enough to get you to a certain level of relevance, a certain level of emotion, a certain level of decision. And then if you want to get to a bigger decision, you may need to do something for more relevance, something for more emotion, and then get that bigger decision. Or it's possible you've already achieved the relevance and emotion, you just need to ask for a bigger decision. The point is, though, that there's this continual cycle where you can keep getting sort of bigger and bigger levels of each of these individual factors, and once you have the bigger level of the prior factor, once you have a bigger F, you can get a bigger R. Once you have a bigger R, you can get a bigger E. Once you have a bigger E, you can get a bigger D. And then you can give her the big D. But the point is that you want to be going to increasing levels and kind of know where you're at, okay? So if you are trying for compliance in your set and you're not getting it, It may be that you need to back off, make it more relevant to her, maybe give her some more emotional spikes, get her more motivated, and then and only then can you go back and try for a higher level of compliance. So a lot of guys, what they do is they're just pushy, pushy, pushy. They're trying to get compliance all the time. They're not building up more relevance, more emotion in the set. They're not making the girl chase. They're not making the girl commit emotionally. And because she's not in that moment of emotional commitment, she's not going to give you that moment of logical commitment. Okay? So that's what you want to be doing, is thinking about how do I get deeper levels of emotional commitment? How do I get deeper levels of relevance? And then and only then do you go for deeper levels of decision. All right? Quick side note, or just kind of an end note, the value of the decision, because this is what a lot of guys miss, is that until you've gotten the decision, focus, relevance, emotion, that's all just chemicals in the body. That's something that will fade over time. Decision is a logical fact that existed in the real world. And once you have that logical fact or action in the real world, that doesn't go away. And so that lasts. So decisions are things that will make numbers not flake, will make girls chase you, will make girls brag to their friends about you, et cetera, et cetera. It will make your influence with the girl last beyond your presence, okay? It will also make her take bigger and bigger stands for you. Anyone who's familiar with, if you've ever read Influence by Robert Cialdini or other psychological principles similar to that, you'll know the principle of commitment and consistency, which is once you've agreed to something, once you've said yes to something, you start finding all the reasons why you said yes. Whereas if you say no to something, you start finding all the reasons why you said no. So every time you get a decision, every time you get her compliance, then you're increasing her buy-in to you and her rationalization for why she likes you. Therefore, every time she complies or makes the decision in your favor, she will like you more as a result, and it will last longer. So that's the real beauty of this whole Fred model, is you're getting that decision on a consistent basis. But remember, it's not just about trying for decision, trying for decision, trying for decision. You have to have the prerequisites in place first. So you should look at this almost as though it's like sort of an outward spiral of Fred models. Think of a little FRED, and then a bigger one, and a bigger one, and a bigger one in outward loops. And so you need to get the little one, then get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the further out you go, the bigger the Fred you're getting, the bigger the commitment, the deeper and better your game is, okay? So think of it as, think of game as a continual process of hooking for a deeper and deeper commitment. When you look at game this way, a lot of things will start to make a lot of sense to you. All right? That's it. Take care. Till next time.